Hey guys, welcome back to my second video because I just finished reading the second Percy Jackson a while back. I'm now reading the third one as I record this, but I did finish the second Percy Jackson book, so in this video I'm going to be talking about that. And without further ado, I actually did like this one more than the first one, but without further ado, let's just get right into the video because the last one was so long. I want to try and keep this one shorter. Alright, just so we know some character names that are gonna matter for this video. Firstly, you got Percy Jackson, Grover Underwood, Annabeth Chase, Sally Jackson, Chiron Tyson, Clarice LaRue, Luke Castellan, Polyphemus, Circe, Sirens, Mr. D, Dionysus, obviously that's, I believe, Zeus' son. Tantalus, there's also Hermes, and I believe Ares shows up in this one again. There's also these bear twins. I don't recall their names, but they are these like bear twins that work for Luke in this. So, when I say bear twins, they're actually half human, half bear, and I was hearing that story was just I got horrified for women there, like, although obviously that's not possible. But anyway, let's just get right into the actual book. So chapter 1 is called My Best Friend Shops for a Wedding Dress, and when I first saw this chapter, out of context, I just remembered how old all the main characters are, and I was like, no, we don't need no child brides. Like, what are you doing, Percy Jackson? Like, I know it's based off Greek mythology, there's probably a lot of child brides in Greek mythology, but we don't need that here. Okay, obviously what the events of this chapter actually were was way different, thank God. So basically, this chapter, Percy's having a dream. If we remember from the first book, Percy sometimes has dreams where if he, like, while he is technically sleeping, he's also in his dream present somewhere else. Like, in the first book, it was like he would show up in the underworld of Hades, or like, at that, what cliff thing where the remains of I'm just like trying to remember his name, the Titan King. What the hell do I don't remember his name? Well, I mean, I didn't have it written here. He didn't seem too important to book 2, so oh well. But basically, he has a dream, and his dream takes place in St. Augustine, where he sees Grover running down the street scared. Clearly something's chasing him. And by the end of the dream, Grover ends up in a wedding dress shop, question mark? I guess, a wedding dress shop where you can buy wedding dresses. And then, like, when Percy wakes up at breakfast, Sally tells him that he cannot come to Camp Half-Blood this summer because of reasons. She didn't give him a reason. She's like, yeah, Chiron said it's not safe for you. Don't go to camp this year. You're gonna be, I say year. I just said summer. Now I'm saying year. Don't go to camp this summer. It's not safe or whatever. And Percy's, they're in trouble basically. And when Percy tries to question, hey, look, can you tell me what's going on? She's like, we'll talk later. So Percy decides to just go to school with a new friend he's made named Tyson. And I'm going to tell you right now, Tyson, like, at first, for the first multiple chapters of the book, for like 75% of this book, Tyson was actually so annoying to me. And, like, I kind of felt bad, though, because I could tell this book really wanted me to like Tyson. So I was thinking, I hope I'll like Tyson by the end of this so that I don't have like a hot take for this video. And spoiler, by like chapter 15 or 16 or whatever, like, I did actually like Tyson a lot more. So that's that. Let's just get into chapter 2. Now we're in chapter 2 called I Played Dodgeball with Cannibals. So Jeffrey Dahmer basically. Is he like the only cannibal I can think of? Like, when I hear cannibal, that's just the guy I think of, honestly. But obviously, chapter 2 is not referring to Dahmer. Chapter 2 is referring to Cyclops. But basically, the events of chapter 2 is Percy obviously is going to a new school. And he's going to a new school because being a half-blood who has monsters chasing him around all the time, he never can last at one school for more than a year, hence why he's going to this one. So, he goes back to all his classes, ELA, science, and then he ends up in PE class with his friend Tyson, of course. And, while in PE class, they're playing dodgeball, and the PE teacher guy, like, he's a really old guy, like, dude's literally just spacing out the whole time. And it turns out, the school bully here, Matt, has brought some friends, some friends to help him in dodgeball, beating up Percy, because he just has something against Percy and Tyson. But honestly, I feel like they must have something against Percy, because Percy's friends with Tyson, because they seem to have more of a thing against Tyson. Obviously, Tyson being basically all Percy knows about Tyson at this point is that he's homeless, living in, if I remember correctly, a refrigerator in an alleyway. And he has he's a really big guy for I guess 12, 13-year-old? 13-year-old? Yeah, 13-year-old. And also he has, a lot of scars on his back and stuff, kids have a rough time. But it turns out that these friends of Matt's that are helping him with dodgeball are actually monsters. They are, they are not Cyclops, they're giants. That's right. I'm already thinking of Polyphemus later in the book. Correction, they're giants, not Cyclops. They're giants. I'm already thinking of Polyphemus later in the book. But, these are cannibal giants who want to eat Percy and the others, I guess. And while he and Tyson are, fighting these cannibal giants and with Tyson's... And Tyson, there's something weird going on with Tyson because somehow he's able to, grab these fireballs that the giants are throwing and it doesn't burn him at all. He's just And, right as they're fighting, suddenly the final giant that's left falls over. It turns out Annabeth is there because remember she has this Yankees cap that can turn her invisible. So she has this Yankees cap and Annabeth's there. And lastly for this chapter, what happens is obviously because the gym has burnt down and stuff pretty much, and there's there's even a hole in the wall going out to the street and stuff, and obviously there's a lot of mortal kids there and stuff, and the police show up, and then now Percy's obviously kind of wanted now, and so he runs away with Tyson and Annabeth. Alright, so chapter 3 is called We Hailed a Taxi of Eternal Torment. Sounds fun. I would not go on that taxi. I would not. That does not sound fun whatsoever. Why do I keep closing my eyes? Why am I always closing my eyes? That's something I do a lot, I feel like, on the channel. I'll just, close my eyes while talking. I mean, it is technically, 10:30 a.m. right now. I haven't had my caffeine for today yet. I'm a little tired. But I feel like I even do it when I already have my caffeines. But anyway, basically in this chapter, Percy, Tyson, and Annabeth meet up in the alley, and it seems Annabeth is not really like Tyson. This is women there, and oh my gosh, wait, Tyson, you actually, no wonder you were able to fight the giants and stuff, because he is a Cyclops, and Cyclops apparently don't got a good reputation, and, so there's that, and, apparently Percy's like, how did I not notice, because, for some reason the mist, he couldn't see past the mist, and if you recall, the mist is basically something that will surround, I guess, anti-Greek monsters or weapons and that kind of thing, and mortals will see something else than what is actually happening. But basically, Annabeth gets the drachma, which is, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I feel like there's a lot of things in this series I'm mispronouncing, but you know what? Oh well, you know what? It's just Percy Jackson, so, which is basically, I guess, currency, a money currency in God World. It's their gold coins or something, and she uses it to get a taxi that's being driven by the Fates, the three Fates. Obviously, three ladies who are, more or less fortune tellers, whatever. They can tell the future and stuff, and they actually share one eye among them. Obviously, this when I was reading this chapter, being a fan of Disney's Hercules, I was kind of picturing Disney's version when I was reading this chapter. Not gonna lie, I was kind of seeing that, which is funny because like there's obviously Hades in the Disney movie. And there's a Hades in the first book of this series. I'm sure Hades shows up again, but like so far I've only seen him in the first book, and like I did not picture the Disney version there, so that's kind of funny. But basically while they're in this taxi that is going at way too fast a speed because these ladies share one eye among them, like I said. So the driver I don't even think had an eye, in her which she was driving. Basically they're talking and stuff, and like originally, also, like, the Fates didn't even want to let Tyson in, because, like, and Percy is, like, it's kind of funny how annoyed Percy is in these few chapters, because everybody's so against Tyson. He's like, why are you guys against him? Well, maybe if you opened up a Greek mythology book, maybe you'd know. I mean, I don't really know too many stories. I probably only know the most basic of stories, and maybe some actual fun facts here and there, but technically speaking, yeah. But ultimately, they finally reach Half-Blood Hill, because that was the destination. And reaching Half-Blood Hill, they see a bunch of campers defending the camp against two big monsters, and these campers are led by Clarice LaRue, and now Percy can see why his mom was like, it's too dangerous for you to go back to camp right now. Alright, before I get into chapter 4, correction on this. I've misspoke earlier when I said that in chapter 3, Percy learns that Tyson is a Cyclops. Turns out he doesn't learn that till chapter 4, so, correction there. And, chapter 4, speaking of Tyson, chapter 4 is called Tyson Plays with Fire. So, so basically in this chapter, Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson join the fight against the two monsters, which are actually giant bulls of sorts. And after defeating them, that's when Percy learns Tyson is a Cyclops, because obviously at this point, it's like, he keeps fighting with fire and stuff. Like, how are you doing this, bruh? But, either way, though, what I said about the mist, like, he couldn't see past the mist to see that Tyson actually has only one eye. That still holds true. It just happened later in the book than I originally said. And also what he learns being back is that Talia's tree is dying. Now, Talia's tree is a pine tree that used to be a girl named Talia, who was, like, the daughter of Zeus, and, like, she, when she, Annabeth, and Luke first arrived at Half-Blood Hill with Grover, the monsters were there, and she was holding them off and fight, so that the others could get to safety, and she ended up falling in battle, but before she could die, Zeus took pity on her, obviously because, she's his daughter, and he turned Talia into a pine tree, and now it's dying, because someone poisoned the tree. I wonder who it could have been. It really shouldn't have been. I want to be honest right now, like, oh my god, wait, I just remembered the Titan leader's name. His name is Kronos. Well, how could I forget that? How could I forget that, bro? Anyway, I just remembered his name, but like, I felt like it was pretty obvious who poisoned the tree, so it felt so stupid to me that the gods are like, oh, we gotta, like, well, first of all, Argus is fired. If you remember who Argus is, he was a security guard in the first book, and also turns out Chiron is fired too, because apparently Chiron's getting the blame. To me, like, even though there is a whole reveal with Chiron having a connection to Kronos later or whatever, like, to me it was still like, isn't it obvious who it was? It was the dude who betrayed you all last summer. So that was just, like, so dumb to me, to be honest, but let's just get into chapter 5. Alright, so chapter 5 is called I Get a New Cabin Mate. I wonder who it could be. Maybe it's the new character that is Percy's age, but okay, I wonder who it could be. Anyway, in this chapter, obviously, Chiron is fired. Originally, chapter 4 was like, he's nowhere to be found, but come on, guys, he was fired. Yeah, because like I said, he was fired. And although Percy and Annabeth got to say goodbye before he left, he is fired. He has to leave for, I guess he has a lot of centaur family out there somewhere. And he obviously had to leave because he got blamed for Talia's tree, even though he would never poison Talia's tree. And at dinner that night, Percy gets to meet Chiron's replacement, a dude named Tantalus. And oh my god, this guy is so annoying. Like, Loki, I was just like, why? Why? This was the replacement? Really? Why? Especially since you quickly learn he is as I wrote in my notebook over there, and I wrote the specific words, underworld hell prisoner. Like, this is a, like, really bad dude. Like, this guy's, and, like, in his punishment, like, he was the guy that could never get, like, the food from the apple from the tree or whatever. Like he's not allowed to consume food ever again. But basically, the first thing Tantalus does as the new activities director at Camp Half-Blood is reinstates the thing that's called chariot racing. I don't think I need to explain what chariot racing is. I would assume you guys know what that is. But apparently, at Camp Half-Blood, it would be really dangerous and stuff. Like, a lot of bad things would happen usually. So people were kind of like, should we really? But anyways, obviously Tyson's still here, and because everybody seems to have a thing against Cyclops, that Percy for some reason doesn't understand. You'd think he would have thought to read up on all the lore of literally what is his life now, what his life is now, like last summer. You would have thought he'd find the time to do that last summer, especially after he went on that whole quest in June and stuff. But basically, right as Tyson's, like, there and stuff, and, like, obviously everybody seems to be making fun of him, particularly Tantalus. He's the one basically making fun of Tyson, like, standing there, like, being like, I don't know what's happening, and then, like, suddenly something's above his head. What is it? Oh, it's, Poseidon's trident. Turns out that, Tyson is Percy's brother. Yay. And obviously Percy's, like, remembering earlier, Annabeth was like, oh, well, there's, Cyclops are usually all have, like, one parent in particular, and Percy suddenly has, like, he just has a moment where he's like, oh, yeah, that's right, my dad likes to have a lot of Cyclops babies. And it's like, you'd think that would be something you'd remember, especially since it's a bit of lore about your dad. So, like, I'm surprised he wasn't like, maybe this guy's my brother. But basically, obviously, this means that Tyson is his new cabin mate. And obviously, because everybody seems to have something against Tyson, Percy's now just, like, really unpopular. But, yeah. What's that say? Alright, well, that's the end of this chapter, though, so let's get to chapter 6. Alright, so chapter 6 is basically the start of Percy really getting back into what life at Camp Half-Blood is with all the, with all the activities and stuff, like, I guess canoeing, sword fighting, that kind of thing. And because Tantalus has reinstated chariot racing, Percy and Annabeth decide to work together since, Athena, obviously that's Annabeth's mother, is, like, the creator of the chariot, and Poseidon, Percy's dad, is, the god of horses. So, like, of course, it's perfect pairing. But ultimately they have an argument, I think, to do with Tyson, and so ultimately Percy works with Tyson instead. And on chariot racing day, it's going about as good as it'll go when suddenly there seems to be a lot of pigeons around. Because obviously this is a chapter called, there's a evil demon pigeons attack or something like that. And so these evil little demon pigeons attack everyone in the chariots and the crowd and stuff. All chaos breaks loose, and Tantalus punishes Percy and Annabeth because he blames them for disrupting the chariot race when it was actually demon pigeons attacking. But okay, Thanos, okay. Screw you, Thanos. Alright, let's just get to the next chapter. Okay, before we get into chapter 7, I have to fix something in like chapter 6. I forgot to mention that Percy between like the chariot racing and just getting ready with like Annabeth and stuff, Percy had a dream where he sees Grover, and Grover is trapped somewhere in the sea with a big guy named Polyphemus, and Grover's like, yo, you gotta help me. Also, you gotta help me get out of here. You gotta find me. Please help. Sea monsters, that kind of thing. Actually, I think it was Annabeth. I figured out it was the sea monsters. Anyway, basically, I forgot to mention that last time. And this chapter, chapter 7, is called "I Accept Gifts from a Stranger." Now, that stranger ends up being Hermes later, but before that, though, obviously, even though Percy and Annabeth are in the middle of, I guess, a fight right now, Percy tells her what happened, and Annabeth's like, oh, well, if Grover's in trouble, we gotta, like, get permission to go on a quest to go save him and stuff, and if he's with Polyphemus, then, like, Polyphemus has a golden fleece that has the power to, heal tallest tree, so we need, like, a quest to go on this thing and stuff, and their plan goes half good, because they do ask for it at dinner and stuff, like, presenting the whole idea to the entire camp. And, like, it goes half good, because while Tantalus is like, yeah, that's a good idea, he doesn't let them go on the quest. Instead, he looks at Clarice, obviously daughter Ares, and he's like, Clarice, you go on this quest. And obviously Clarice is, like, shocked. She's like, me? Because, like, honestly, it's like, picking favorites here, Tantalus. It wasn't their idea. Also, wasn't Grover their friend. But, like, honestly, though, like, let Clarice do something. I mean, Percy did go on a quest the last summer, so I mean, fair, honestly. But basically, obviously Clarice has it instead, so she has to go talk to the Oracle and stuff, so while she's going to do that, Percy actually goes to sit on the beach side, and that's when a guy in a jog suit comes up, and it turns out this guy is Hermes, Luke's dad. Obviously, Luke being the guy that betrayed everyone the last summer. So, Hermes and Percy are talking and stuff, and Hermes is like, yeah, if you come across Luke, because obviously he's actually, Hermes here is, here to help Percy get out there, so he can go find the golden fleece and stuff. He's like, because, Hermes seems to, like, feel bad that Luke's resents him or something, like, yeah, which is, like, so sweet and so sad. It's like, Luke is just like, dude, your dad cares. It's just, he's a god. He's got god stuff to do. Hence why it's sad. But basically, yeah, what was I say? I can't even read my own handwriting, y'all. Anyways, yeah, so Hermes leaves and stuff, and with leaving some supplies for Percy, and turns out there's a ship in the distance that's, Hermes was like, yo, your ride's there, and then Annabeth and Tyson come running over. They come, because obviously those two are gonna go on the trip with Percy, and, there's danger coming, which I guess is security, to make sure no campers are outside the cabin at night. And before those guys can come, it's time to get out. It's time to get to that ship that's, like, just off the shore, so, yeah. Alright, chapter 8. We board the Princess Andromeda, and the name Andromeda only makes me think of Harry Potter. All I could think is Andromeda, Black Tonks, whatever, cause, yeah, that's, I want to say she's the youngest of the three sisters, Bellatrix is the oldest, Narcissa's the middle child, and she's the youngest, but this isn't a video about Harry Potter. Maybe I could do Harry Potter stuff. I actually haven't read any of those books in forever, but I am a huge Harry Potter fan, so maybe I could, but, Chapter 8 of this book, Annabeth Tyson's there now, Percy's like, yep, let's go, so, obviously it's like, how do we get to the boat, though? Oh, giant sea ponies show up to carry them there. Thank you, Poseidon. Always there to help. But it makes me wonder, like, how much Luke was expecting from Hermes. Because Poseidon seems to always be helping Percy, so I don't know what's going on there with Hermes and Luke. But basically, they get there to the ship, and during the ride to Princess Andromeda, Tyson grows a close bond with the sea pony he was riding. The sea pony's name was I believe he named it Rainbow. I don't know why. And basically they find there seems to be no one around on the Princess Andromeda, so they find an empty room, like, I guess a cruise ship hotel room kind of thing. And they sleep there. Then in the morning, I believe that says it. Yep. There was a weird announcement from the captain, and all of our main characters are suddenly awake, being like, "What the heck did I just hear? That did not sound like a normal morning announcement on a cruise ship." So they're kind of sneaking around, and suddenly they're like, "There's a lot of monsters here. Like, there's a monster at the buffet. There's a monster over there. This is not a normal cruise ship." And whew. And basically, while sneaking around, they learned that Luke's here. So they have to decide whether or not to stay and face him, or what to do. Like, they have to decide that now. And that leads us into chapter 9. So obviously, knowing that Luke is here, they're sneakily traveling up through the ship together, and they end up right outside the Admiralty Suite. I probably mispronounced that. Whatever. And Tyson, being a Cyclops, has a little gift where he has basically a super hearing and can speak the words that he's hearing from his own mouth. And Annabeth's really uncomfortable by this, but Percy's like, "Yo, sweet, we can hear what Luke's saying in there to his buddies." But unfortunately for them, this ends up getting them caught, because Luke and his buddies, the bear twins I talked about, Aureus and Agrius, probably mispronounced that too. Oh well. Hear it, and so they bring them all in. Luke tries his best to convince them to join, be like, "Yo, you should totally join us. You can help rebuild the West after we destroy it. And look, right here, do you see this coffin here in this room? Yeah, the remains of Kronos is in there. You help us, you help us revive him, he can then help us, do this stuff." And basically, yeah, but obviously Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson are like, "Nope." So ultimately he's like, "Well, then you're no use to me. Jail them." And then as they're being dragged away or whatever, they get the chance to escape. They finally get the chance to escape, and they get off the Princess Andromeda by getting on a lifeboat, and using a gift that one of the gifts that Hermes gave Percy for the trip, which was a bottle that holds, like, the wind, I guess, like the winds, and it causes the lifeboat to go at really fast speed, and this leads us into the next chapter. Chapter 10 is called "We Hitch a Ride with the Confederates." Those the Southrons from the Civil War, the American Civil War, obviously. It's funny to me when this is gonna be a quick tangent, but like, it's funny to me when we're always just like, "The Civil War," like, as if there aren't tons of civil wars. Anyways, basically the event of this chapter is the lifeboat makes its way all the way to Chesapeake Bay in Virginia, and going up to shore, Annabeth leads them to a little hideout from the time when she, Talia, and Luke would go around the U.S. together. Before the camp days, before Talia was a tree and Luke became an asshole. But basically, while they're there, Percy wants to privately talk to Annabeth, so he's like, "Yo, Tyson, go get donuts." And while he goes to search for donuts, he and Annabeth talk about Talia, and it seemed Annabeth was about to say something about Cyclops, when suddenly Tyson comes back with donuts. And obviously, Percy, having originally said that just to get Tyson away, not expecting him to actually come back with donuts, was like, "How did you get those?" Like, he was just so confused. He was like, "How'd you get those?" So he and Annabeth follow Tyson as he shows them, and they come across something called monster donuts. And obviously, Annabeth quickly figures out that this place is literally run by Greek monsters. And a Hydra shows up, and they actually accidentally got the attention of the Hydra, so they end up in a fight with the Hydra, and they're really struggling when suddenly, something explodes the Hydra, and it turns out it was Clarice on a ghost ship. That's, the Confederate ship, a Confederate ship. Like I don't remember what the ship was called, but what? All you really need to know about this ship is that it was owned by the Confederates in the Civil War, and the reason why she has this ship is because whenever one side loses a war, they have to pledge service to Ares to help one of his many kids on a quest, I guess. So these Confederate dudes had to help Clarice on this. And so basically, yeah, Clarice saves them. And that's the end of that chapter. So this next chapter called Clarice Blows Up Everything, as she tends to do, I guess. I mean, Clarice is kind of hot-headed. This chapter's a little long, so basically Clarice is really pissed because this was her quest, not theirs. How dare you sneak out of camp? This is Clarice's moment to shine. So she is mad about that, but she does give them a little boat tour and basically just, gives them a place to sleep. And I'm just gonna mention here, like, the dead Confederates on the ship, like, they seem to really like Annabeth because she's from Georgia, and that's the South, but they don't like Percy because he's from New York, therefore he's a Yankee or whatever, and, like, and I couldn't help but think of, like, the Percy Jackson TV show where they race swapped Annabeth to be black for some reason, I don't know, DEI, that, something stupid like that, But, and even then, like, doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna get to that, though. But, like, basically, I was thinking, I don't think these Confederates would like Annabeth too much in the book. No, not the book, sorry, the, TV show. In the book, they like her. I feel like they must have not liked her in the TV show. Just to be realistic. I mean, these are the Confederates from the Civil War. They're just the Southerners from the Civil War time. They wanted slaves. And little black Annabeth in the TV show would have been a slave in that time, so... That's what I was thinking. That just made me. That was kind of just funny to me. It's like you just made life harder for TV show Annabeth when you race up to her for that scene. Just saying. Like, I feel like you should just keep it accurate. Like, just keep stuff accurate. That kind of stuff bothers me because like I wanted to be accurate. But anyway, basically Percy goes to sleep. He has a dream where Polyphemus is showing Grover, who is dressed up as a bride, because Polyphemus thinks Grover is a lady Cyclops. And the only reason that Grover managed this is because Polyphemus he's not 100% blind, but he is very blind in his one eye. And apparently Grover could do one hell of a falsetto, so basically he's like showing the island, like, yes, this is my island, there's the golden fleece. And so, yeah, and then like waking up, Percy goes upstairs, overhears that Clarice is having a conversation with her dad, Ares, and Ares is like, you better be the one to finish this quest or I'm going to be really mad. So obviously Clarice has that going for her. And now they're here at the Sea of Monsters, and they're at the entrance where, I'm probably going to butcher this, but Charybdis and Scylla. One is like a whirlpool, and the other lives in, like, I guess this really tall, like, mountain island thing. And, they're both very dangerous, and no matter what side of the Sea of Monsters you're entering from, those two are always there. And they're trying to make their way through and stuff, but ultimately everything goes, just to keep this short, everything goes bad. The ship blows up, and everybody's scattered around, and everyone now thinks Tyson's dead because he was in the boiler room trying to fix it and stuff, and so they think Tyson's dead because the ship literally blew up. And this leads us into the next chapter. We check into Cece's spa and resort. I don't know about you, that sounds like a scam, and I'm surprised these guys didn't, just the second they show up at the dock, just take one of the other much better ships and go. But basically, Chapter 12. Percy wakes up on the raft with Annabeth in the middle of the sea of monsters, and they're both thinking, yeah, Tyson's dead. How sad. Obviously Percy's really sad about that. I mean, one, that's his brother, two, that's his friend, good friend, and stuff, so, who's helped him out a lot, so, I mean, yeah, and at this point, I still didn't like Tyson. I felt so bad. It's oh, I don't really like Tyson, though. Oh, he's annoying. And it's the same story with Clarice. I'm trying so hard to actually like these characters, those two characters, but I'm just I can't. I'm having trouble. Though, like I said, by the end of the book, I do like both of them, But, anyway, they briefly talk about Chiron's prophecy, the one that Chiron doesn't want Percy to know because no one can know too much about their future or whatever. And Annabeth tells him, yeah, in 3 years, when you're 16, you might be a weapon, and the choice of whether or not you're a weapon that will destroy the world is up to you. And Percy's like, nice, that's great, Annabeth. Ultimately, though, they arrive to an island where there's only women. Everywhere you look, it's only women. That sounds like my worst nightmare. Where are the men? I love men. Just all around. I prefer the men's company over women's. Ignore the fact that my best friend in real life is a girl. Ignore that. Technically speaking, my whole life I've always preferred men. So whenever I hear one of these things in a book or movie or whatever, where it's just it's all women and it's fine. Girls, hanging out, girly power, whatever the heck. I'm just this sounds like my worst nightmare. What are you talking about? I'm turning around right now. I don't care. I'm on a lifeboat. I'm turning around right now. I'm getting away from this island. Too many women for me. But basically, they get to this island, and Annabeth gets a nice tour, and she gets special treatment because she's a woman or something, and Percy just has to stay behind with the owner, Cece, who we later learn is Cersei. I'm pretty sure I'm mispronouncing that, but she hates men. And basically, while Percy's alone with Cece, Cersei, whatever, he gets turned into a guinea pig, thrown in with some other guinea pigs that he realizes, wait a minute, these are men also. Why are we, my question is, Cersei, what did men do to you? Why are you gonna turn into a guinea pig? Why a guinea pig specifically? Why not something else? Just saying. I was about to say about a cat, but I realized none of my cats are in here, so I can't even point to a cat. But ultimately, she does try to recruit Annabeth into her, I don't know, girl power cult. I don't know, it feels like a cult to me. I mean, it actually kind of technically is in this case, but honestly, even if I saw in the average, girly club, it could literally, you could be pointed to a Girl Scout troop, and I'll be cult. No, not seriously. No. Okay, I'm not being totally serious with that. Those are not the groups I actually think are cults, but, I'm talking about cults. Anyway, obviously Annabeth is no! So Annabeth actually ends up outsmarting her, manages to free Percy, and the other guinea pig dudes turn out to be Blackbeard and his crew. So that's where Blackbeard's been this whole time. Interesting. But in escaping, they take Blackbeard's ship, which was in the docks, the harbor, whatever, where they left their lifeboat and stuff, and obviously Blackbeard's not too happy about that, but hey, you know what, we're already away on your ship. I don't know how your ship's working, dude. It's 300, 400 years old? I don't even know. But, we're going off on Blackbeard's ship back into the Sea of Monsters, away from Cece's Island. Alright, so now we're in Chapter 13, and they're still on Queen Anne's revenge. Obviously, that being the name of Blackbeard's ship. And while they're on this ship, I keep closing my eyes. Why do I keep closing my eyes? It's like I'm trying to picture the events of the book in my head. I don't know why I keep closing my eyes. Basically, in this chapter, while they're still on the ship, Annabeth tells Percy exactly why she has a bit of a thing against Cyclops, because a Cyclops inadvertently caused Talia's death. Apparently, when they were on, the reason why monsters were able to catch up with them to be able to kind of, sort of, maybe kill Talia before she got turned into a tree. Obviously, we're acting like she's dead, but really, she's still alive. She's a tree. I mean, she's poisoned right now, so maybe she'll be dead. But I mean, yeah, and basically, she's like, yeah, so, while we were trying to make our way to Half-Blood Hill, we got turned around and ended up with a Cyclops and stuff, and he, tried to eat us and stuff, and then we escaped, but then, of course, because of that detour, monsters able to catch up and kill Talia and stuff. So that's why she doesn't really like Cyclops too much, hence her thing against, Tyson, and this is when we reach the Sirens Island. Now, a smart person would just, put in, I believe they use dried candle wax as, earplugs. I was trying to think of the term earplugs. But Annabeth is like, I can gain amazing wisdom if I can survive the sirens while listening to their song. And so Percy's like, oh, yay, okay. So he ties her up to the mast, I guess is what it's called. I'm trying to remember what parts of the ship is called. And, she's tied up there, so she can't move, obviously, because the siren song's it's dangerous, so while she can still listen to the song, Percy's got his little, and he's trying to steer the ship and stuff. He can't even really hear the siren song, and then suddenly he turns around. Oh my god, wait, where's Annabeth? And he realizes, wait, I didn't disarm her. She had a knife. She cut the ropes, and freed herself, and now she's swimming away to the sirens. Now, the name of this chapter was Annabeth Tries to Swim Home, and I took that way too literally. I was like, aren't you in, the Bermuda Triangle? How could you swim home? I took that way too seriously, but really what it is that she's trying to swim to the sirens, and Percy's obviously swimming after her and stuff. I believe he still has his little makeshift earplugs in, and he grabs her by the foot, and this is when, for a moment, he sees what she's seen. Because while on his own, all he's seen is some sirens that are very bird-like creatures. They do get mixed up with mermaids a lot. Even I kind of mix them up with mermaids, because mermaids are more like fish with their scaly tail and stuff. But apparently, sirens are more bird-like creatures, and like vultures, sort of. But basically, that's what he sees. But what Annabeth is seeing is her parents meaning Athena and her mortal father, and Luke, all having a picnic with a nice big golden New York City behind them. And obviously, Percy pieces the city backdrop together as she rebuilt New York City to be what she views as the best, or whatever. And ultimately, though, he manages to save her, get her back to the ship. They get away from the siren song, and this is when Percy first learns about fatal flaws, in which Annabeth's is hubris. But ultimately, they finally arrive at the correct island, Polyphemus' island, to save Grover. Alright, so this next chapter's an action-packed one. So, they're at Polyphemus' island now, right? And they realize, because they look down the shoreline, and they're like, hey, the other lifeboat from the Confederate ship, which I just saw the name on my piece of paper, SS Birmingham, it's right there. And so the hope gets in their head, maybe Tyson's alive, maybe he made it here. Maybe he did, that'd be nice. And, so basically they decide, how about, because next thing they see is, killer sheep. And how convenient that they got to see how these sheep are killer sheep, which, how convenient for them, because could you imagine, not getting to see that, and just walking among the sheep, and then you're eaten. And and all that's left is bones, I guess. I guess killer sheep don't like chewing on bones like dogs or something. Alright, well, basically what they do is they sneak all the way around the island up to these caverns behind the cliff. I don't know why I said caverns. There's basically just like a rocky incline that they climb and they get up, and this is when they see who was actually on the extra lifeboat that they saw. It was Clarice, and Polyphemus has captured Clarice, and she's basically over a giant pot because he's gonna eat her, I guess. And Clarice stupidly reveals to Polyphemus that Grover isn't actually a lady cyclops. He's a satyr. And so this changes Polyphemus' plan right away. He's like, okay, I'm marrying Clarice instead, and I'm gonna eat the satyr. And honestly, I remember, like, when Clarice revealed, like, that Grover was actually a satyr, I was like, are you stupid? Like, Clarice! Like, I wanna like Clarice, because sometimes her personality actually is pretty fun to read along with and stuff. Like, obviously I'm following Percy either way. Percy's probably my favorite character, honestly. But, you know, like, it was so annoying. I was like, Clarice, are you stupid? Like, you just make everything worse. You turned yourself into a child bride now. I mean, I guess you're not being eaten, but still, like... But basically, ultimately, Percy and Annabeth come up with a plan. Percy sneaks inside with the normal sheep, because there are normal sheep on his island. He manages to sneak inside, strapped to the belly of a normal sheep. And obviously Polyphemus gives all these sheep a pat on the head when he lets them inside and stuff. He's like, and the one that Percy's dangling under, he's like, you put on some weight. I'm gonna eat you next. Like... What about when that weight randomly disappears? Just asking. But basically, you know, and then while Percy's in there, before Polyphemus could close the boulder door, you know, because obviously the door to his cave is actually a boulder that only he is strong enough to move. So, like, before he can close that back up, Annabeth distracts Polyphemus. She has her Yankees cap on, and she calls herself as nobody. And obviously, this is kind of important for Polyphemus because years ago, I don't recall which hero it was, but I do remember the book mentioning, like, a long time ago, there was another hero who managed to be invisible, and he was yelling that his name was Nobody, and obviously Polyphemus, not the brightest guy, because he thinks this woman's voice is the same person, even though the original hero was a guy. So, Polyphemus, I think you're just stupid. Because there is a difference between girls and boys, but okay, Polyphemus. Whatever you say, bud. You definitely think that's the same person. But basically, you know, obviously Percy's inside the cave. He's like, he frees Grover and Clarice, Grover and Clarice. Tyson isn't there at all, because, like, Clarice is like, nope, just me. Tyson wasn't with me. So, obviously Percy's a little sad about that, and basically, they, suddenly, they, hear a scream, which turns out to be Annabeth's, and now... You know, obviously Annabeth's in danger, and it just leads us into the next chapter. So this next chapter is chapter 15 of 20. This book was actually 2 chapters shorter than the first book, and I was actually happy about that, honestly, because it means I can actually have a shorter video on here, because the last video was an hour and a half long, and I was just like, that is really long. And hopefully this one will be a lot shorter. But, basically the events of this chapter was, you know, Polyphemus has Annabeth, so the others are fighting. Annabeth gets dropped on her head, knocked out and stuff. They manage to get to the other side of the island, and, when fighting Polyphemus, Percy actually manages to get him down. He's, like, pointing his, sword, Riptide, obviously, Riptide, at Polyphemus' like, eye, and, like, Polyphemus is whining. He's like, please spare me, and the other's like, no, please, just stab him. Don't spare him, he's tricking you. But Percy stupidly spares him just for it to actually be a trick by Polyphemus. But luckily though, Tyson shows up. Turns out Tyson's alive. Don't question how. He should probably be dead, but he's alive. Because even if he's immune to fire, because he's a Cyclops and all, even if he's immune to fire, because obviously the ship blew up, obviously that would be fire. I feel like still the impact, like the physical impact of like you know what I'm talking about? Like I feel like that probably should have killed Tyson, but oh well. Anyways, Tyson's back and he's kind of like fighting Polyphemus. Polyphemus is like, "You, Cyclops child, how dare you like betray Cyclops? Like you're fighting with the hero? What is wrong with you?" And that kind of thing, you know? And basically Tyson manages to get the golden fleece. And who's texting me? I don't know when. Golden fleece for Annabeth. No, Tyson gets the golden fleece for Annabeth because we need it for Annabeth because Annabeth got knocked out, obviously. And yeah, it does save her, you know. And after that, they hurry to the ship. They hurry up to their ship. Obviously, that being Blackbeard's ship, Queen Anne's Revenge. And this is when Polyphemus shows up again. Alright, this chapter review is gonna be really short because the majority of the chapter was just a fight between Percy, Tyson, and Polyphemus, you know, because Percy and Tyson are fighting Polyphemus, and obviously they're doing pretty good until Clarice does something stupid and annoying again. You know what Clarice does? Clarice yells at Polyphemus, causing him to know where the ship is, and he throws a boulder that ends up sinking Queen Anne's Revenge. But luckily for our heroes, the sea ponies return to bring them to shore, to bring them over to shore and the mainland and stuff. So at least they're there. And also also in the book, these sea ponies are also referred to as hippocampi. But I don't know how important that really is. Let's just get to the next chapter, because this one really was short. Alright, chapter 17 is the next chapter, and it's actually a pretty good one, not gonna lie. It's a good one. So they're back, they're on, I believe, Miami Beach. Yes, Miami Beach. And Percy makes the decision that they're gonna send the Golden Fleece home with Clarice. She's gonna get a plane ticket because they have just a amount of money for one plane ticket, and he decides, hey, we give it to Clarice, especially since this was her quest. So obviously she should be the one to bring the Golden Fleece home. So while they're doing that, Luke shows up again with the Princess Andromeda ship, obviously, and he brings the other four, obviously that being Annabeth, Grover, Tyson, and Percy on board. And, you know, he's kind of mad and stuff. But Percy ultimately gets him to do a one-on-one fight, I believe it was. Or is that the next one? Hold up. That might have been the next chapter. Oh my god. Okay, yeah, that might have been the next chapter, because, basically, Percy realizes that he has a golden drachma, and he gets Luke to be, just basically spelling out his whole plan and what he did to Talia's tree and stuff, and, like, Percy sneakily throws the coin, hopes for the rainbow, messenger to, show up, and basically, there it is. Luke said it all in front of the entire Camp Half-Blood. In front of everybody at Camp Half-Blood while they're having dinner. Luke said it all. He was the one that poisoned Talia's tree. And obviously Percy did this all, one, to out Luke, and two, Chiron to get his job back. And obviously, with the truth found, Mr. D, literally before the rainbow thing disappeared, Mr. D fired Tantalus, and Tantalus showed back up in, Underworld Hell, as I'm gonna call it. Because I do not remember the name of that section of the Underworld from the last book. There's a lot of names to remember in this, and this is only my first time, so of course I don't remember it all. But basically, yeah, that's basically that chapter, and this leads us into the next one. Alright, to summarize this next chapter pretty quickly, this is when that fight I mentioned happens between Percy and Luke. A one-on-one, Percy dared him into it. And, as one would probably expect, Percy is losing to Luke. And he gets cornered and stuff, and Beth Tyson are having troubles too. Because, those bear twin guys are holding them, when suddenly a bunch of centaurs show up. It's Chiron and his family. So Chiron and his family will basically fight off Luke and the others, and then they escape with our main characters. And this is when we learn why everybody had been originally suspicious of Chiron when he even though it wasn't him that poisoned the tree. No, they're suspicious of him because it turns out Kronos is his dad. Okay. I'm not too surprised at that news because honestly, we know how Greek gods and I guess even this Greek Titan like to sleep around a lot. Because obviously, I guess that makes Chiron the brother of Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. Interesting. I've got a centaur for a brother, but basically, yeah, that's why they were suspicious of him. This leads us into chapter 19. Alright, so chapter 19, we're back at camp. Clarice gets celebrated by the whole camp because, she did bring back the golden fleece because she was the one we sent on the airplane stuff. So there's that. And, so while she's getting celebrated, the chariot races are actually still a thing, even though Tantalus doesn't work there anymore. They're still gonna do the chariot races for that summer. And, the night before the race, because, this time Percy's working with both Annabeth and Tyson, Percy talks to Hermes, who shows up in the horse stalls, obviously, the stables, where all the horses are in the stalls and stuff, and they talk about what happened with Luke, and obviously Hermes is disappointed and stuff, but he also has a letter to Percy from Poseidon, and Percy, expecting, I don't know, some long paragraph or something, opens it up just to be pretty disappointed. For all it says is, brace yourself. And, I'm starting to see why these guys would be pissed at their godparents, honestly. Like, really? Really? That's all you're gonna write? Maybe not a, hey, Percy, how you doing? You having a good time? Just brace yourself, buddy. Not even buddy at the end. It's just brace yourself. Like, wow. But basically, the chariot race happens, and all in all, they win. And there's no demon pigeons this time, by the way. It's pretty much normal. Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson win, so they get celebrated for that. And, and this leads us into the last chapter, chapter 20. Alright, so chapter 19, we're back at camp. Clarice gets celebrated by the whole camp because, she did bring back the golden fleece because she was the one we sent on the airplane stuff. So there's that. And, so while she's getting celebrated, the chariot races are actually still a thing, even though Tantalus doesn't work there anymore. They're still gonna do the chariot races for that summer. And, the night before the race, because, this time Percy's working with both Annabeth and Tyson, Percy talks to Hermes, who shows up in the horse stalls, obviously, the stables, where all the horses are in the stalls and stuff, and they talk about what happened with Luke, and obviously Hermes is disappointed and stuff, but he also has a letter to Percy from Poseidon, and Percy, expecting, I don't know, some long paragraph or something, opens it up just to be pretty disappointed. For all it says is, brace yourself. And, I'm starting to see why these guys would be pissed at their godparents, honestly. Like, really? Really? That's all you're gonna write? Maybe not a, hey, Percy, how you doing? You having a good time? Just brace yourself, buddy. Not even buddy at the end. It's just brace yourself. Like, wow. But basically, the chariot race happens, and all in all, they win. And there's no demon pigeons this time, by the way. It's pretty much normal. Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson win, so they get celebrated for that. And, and this leads us into the last chapter, chapter 20. Alright, final chapter. The final chariot race celebration lasts all afternoon. And I believe it was. Yeah, the next day, Percy gets the sad news that Tyson is leaving camp. Tyson is gonna go to Poseidon's underwater kingdom and work where all the other Cyclops sons of his work. In the metal workshops, I believe that's what it was. A metal workshop. That is where Tyson's going. Obviously, Percy's like, oh, well, I'll miss you, brother. And he's just like, yeah, I'll miss you too, brother. And, just whatever. And Tyson's left. And, that night, Percy has a dream where his dad, Poseidon, tells him the same thing that letter he left him said, which is just brace yourself. Brace myself for what, Dad? For what? That's what, obviously, he's wondering. And, basically, same night as this dream, he gets woken up by Grover. Grover's like, yo, something happened. And, he's leading him up the hill towards, the saved pine tree, because obviously with the golden fleece back, the pine tree is no longer poisoned. It's chilling now. And there's a girl there, and at first Percy's like, is that Annabeth? Is Annabeth okay? But no, it's not Annabeth. It's a different girl, and everyone seems kind of scared. They're like, "Oh, what's she doing there?" And then Percy's like, "Yo, what are you doing?" Because obviously he's the one that's come forward. He's like holding the girl and stuff. And he's like, because obviously she's mostly unconscious or whatever the heck. He's like, "Yo, why were you doing this, yo? Why we?" What's going on? But then he looks at her and he's been having dreams throughout the book that had to do with a girl that looked just like her. This is when he realizes, oh wait, this is Talia. The golden fleece did its work, magic work, a little too well. This is what Kronos actually wanted. He wanted us to have the fleece, and he wanted Talia to be saved from being a pine tree for the rest of her life. Being the daughter of Zeus. And this is going to cause issues, because now that prophecy that Chiron has could be about either of them. It could be about Percy. It could be about Talia. Who knows? But that's basically where this book ends. And now to my final thoughts. Like I said in the beginning of this video, Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters, I liked it more than the first one, Lightning Thief. I liked this one a whole lot more. The story was so fun. And also, I have to say, I think that Percy and Annabeth are so cute. They're so cute. They're not even a couple yet, and they're so cute. And I say yet because I do have major spoilers for this show. I know they end up together at some point. But honestly, there were so many cute scenes between just them two in this book, and that was just cute. And the story, and the adventure, I feel like I was more invested in this adventure than the other one. Maybe it was more fun or something. I don't know. It did feel actually more fun than the first book's adventure, honestly. So ultimately, I'm gonna give it a score of 9 out of 10, which is 1 point above the other one, because the other one was really good, but this one's also better than the first one, in my opinion. But it's still not, it wouldn't be a 10 out of 10, though. Only the best of the best, in my opinion, would get to 10 out of 10, my personal absolute favorites would get a 10 out of 10, but, yeah, that's really my final thought. I really did like this book. It was fun to read. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, comment anything. What do you think about the book, favorite characters, anything like that? Make sure to check out my social links in my channel bio. My Instagram and both my Instagram and my Discord are there. When I reach 50 subscribers, I plan on opening up a Discord server, so make sure to subscribe so you can be part of that, if you have Discord, that is. And I hope you guys have a good day. Bye now.